Hey everyone! So this must be a hot topic. I have quite a few of you guys already here in the webinar, which is super exciting. Definitely excited about talking about this specific aspect of skin conditions as we continue to talk about skin all of this month. That is being offered to most people right now is antibiotics. And, a lot of it is oral antibiotics, which is throwing off the entire ecosystem of the body. But in addition to that, if the antibiotics fail, which usually is a rotation of antibiotics over the course of a few years, then that usually results in more aggressive. Some of the thing uncovered today is really understanding, first of all, how do skin conditions like hormonal acne or acne in general, how do they manifest? What has to happen over time to develop this type of condition? And also, what are some of the limits, the therapies that are out there, and what better? What can we do better from a lifestyle standpoint? What can we do better from an integrative medicine standpoint? And just being able to have you guys walk away with tools so that you truly understand where this came from and also where it came from for you. Because everyone is extremely, extremely different with how it actually manifested. So just let me know if you guys can hear me through the chat box, both on the webinar and Instagram Live. Also, you guys on Instagram Live, I will get cut off rather shortly from the Instagram Live. So if you do want the full recording, you're going to need to go to the link in the bio and register for this webinar to get the replay. Just a heads up. But for those of you on the webinar, you will be able to have access. And if you have to leave early, you will get a replay as well to watch the rest. So don't worry about that. Okay, guys. So for those of you on the webinar checking out my lovely PowerPoint slide, video is something that Dr. Nick and I host. I always kind of forget to say that on these webinars. It's a great way to get more information about conditions, but it's bite-sized compared to the webinars, which are going to be full-on over to an hour and 20 minutes. So for those of you that are new, just giving you a little bit of background about who the heck I am. So I'm Dr. Nicole. I'm one of the head physicians at Integrative Wellness Group. I've been doing these webinars for a year now. It's kind of crazy. So I've touched on a variety of different topics. We have our website that actually gives you access to all of the webinars that I've done. And really overall, just kind of my background is I got into this field really just to help people. But as I was going through school and going through a variety of different types of training, I just kept challenging what I was being taught. I kept really just actions, and I constantly found myself feeling that the things that were being taught about clinical care didn't make sense. It also didn't make sense to me that we separate out all of these organ systems. So when you have a skin issue, you're going to a dermatologist, but nobody is actually asking you anything about your diet. Nobody's asking you anything about dental work, even though all of your acne is literally right across your teeth. Nobody is necessarily asking you about blood flow. Nobody is asking you about your sinuses, but you have constant acne all over your cheeks. One of the things that we're going to get into is helping you guys to understand all of these different aspects that contribute to acne and how it may be unfolded for you. So I am an integrative physician. Some of you don't know what the heck that actually means. So I have opted in my practice to leverage better testing because I was really tired of having a patient come to me and say, I'm tired, I can't sleep, I have acne, I feel like crap, and then you run basic blood work and it all comes back normal. And the person's like, but I don't feel well, so how am I normal? And I really started to leverage better testing. I started to ask better questions. And that really evolved into going into something called functional medicine, then to integrative medicine. So I really started to not only ask better questions and do better testing, but then I also started to leverage better modalities. People get better. So our approach is, I'm not going to sit here today and talk to you about if everybody gives up gluten, then their skin's going to be perfect. That is not what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. I'm going to actually give you quality information that you're going to be like, holy crap, that makes sense. And now I finally understand where my acne came from, and I actually feel empowered to do something about it. So not only do I do this, but I also share all of this knowledge with other physicians through the institute that I've created, which has been really amazing because it's not about just our little practice here in Belmar, but it's really helping to evolve how healthcare is being done, which really starts with you guys. Really, you guys, because you're going to be demanding better care from your doctors, but it also starts with these doctors really being able to start thinking outside of the box. So for me, I did not get into this because I was sick or I had acne and then nobody could help me, and eventually an integrative doctor helped me. Overall, for me, I had a lot of little things going on that were my normal. And they're your normal because you don't know any better and you don't know any different until you actually do better testing, and then you go, oh crap, I'm not that healthy. So I did a variety of different tests as I got into this field. And I got into the field because I wanted to help people. I didn't get into it for any other reason than that. I wanted to contribute to the world in a big way. I was tired of seeing family members sick. I wanted to help people, and I didn't want to do it through traditional medicine. I wanted to do it in another way. But as I started to test myself, I realized of different things going on, and I realized that I normalized the bad skin. I normalized the irregular periods. I normalized the stomach aches. I normalized the fatigue. I normalized the bad sleep. I normalized all of it. And honestly, there were a lot of things that I didn't even know that I was dealing with until I started to feel better. And then I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize like how moody I was. I'm sure other people are around. But it's just a very interesting thing that I think is really valuable for you guys that are listening, is that you're all doing the same thing. You're all settling for crappy energy, brain fog, memory loss, occasional stomach aches, inability to lose weight, bloating. You're settling for all of that because guess what? Not only are you dealing with it, but all of your friends are dealing with it. And you're saying it's because we're getting old. But now getting old is people that are saying, oh, I'm 30, I'm 33, I'm 38. And I'm like, you should not be dealing with this many symptoms. Be when you're 60, you're going to be in big. So I know that we are almost 10 past 7. There's a lot of things happening in the house. I want to give you guys the opportunity to really just tune in, stick with me, because I'm going to give you a lot of good information for yourself and also even for your kids, because I know that some of you are here because your kids are struggling with acne and you don't know what to do anymore. And you're tired of seeing them upset and self-conscious. And it's really just heartbreaking to you to watch your child just feel so uncomfortable, literally in their own skin. But if you are that parent, or if you're here for yourself, I just want you to understand you don't know what you don't know. I say this in every webinar because you really don't. If you don't have a doctor asking better questions, if you feel like you got paralyzed because you tried to read about the best diet for 75 different ways to go about it, and then you're just like, I don't even know which one to choose, and you gave up, it's not your fault. There's a lot of information nowadays, and we have the beauty of the internet, but it's a lot of mixed information. It's a lot of bad information, conflicting information. So I'm here today to really help you make sense of things, because that's how I know that I did my job, is when you're like, oh my gosh, that actually makes sense, or that is actually really makes sense for me. So like I said before, is that one of the reasons why I do what I do is because it didn't make sense to me that we separated out all of the body systems. The dermatologist asked you 0 questions about what's happening inside of your body. Just didn't even look at the pattern of your acne or of your rashes, and didn't even say, oh, did you ever have an infection there? Oh, do you have stomach problems considering you have Did you have infections in your gums and that's why your acne is along your jawline? That didn't make sense to me. I think it's common sense, but apparently I'm a little weird. So I think that it's really important to look at the big picture and understand how things are tied together. And also, we need to stop ignoring basic physiology. We need that systems are in each other, and just alone from you having a bunch of imbalances in your gut, that is then going to manifest in different parts of your body, and it 100% can manifest in your skin. There are many people that say, oh, I gave up dairy and I immediately noticed that my skin got better. The problem is that you lose steam with those types of things, because what you're doing is you're dampening the fire, but you're not putting the fire out. And I think that that's a really, really important thing for you guys to take away when it comes, especially, and this applies also to gut and other things, but when you cut things out of your life and you cut things out of your diet and you notice that improvement, that's a great thing. But then you notice in that dairy again, or gluten, that all of it comes back. That's because you didn't put out the fire. You didn't fix the root cause, all dampen the fire. So that's not a life to live. It's not a life to live to be walking on eggshells, to be like, I can't do this because otherwise I'm going to go backwards, or otherwise I'm going to have a flare. It's about really being able to leverage better testing to figure out what's actually going on, because whatever's going on is not problems. It might be causing your depression. It also might be causing your gut problems. It might be, everything is very, very connected. And you're not going to know this unless you leverage better testing. And I would love to say there's going to be that one magical pill one day that's going to fix all of our acne. It doesn't work that way, because every single one of you that are struggling with your skin, it's all happening for a different reason. And that's what we're going to get into next, is really understanding what are the contributing factors. So number one is predisposition to acne can start in the womb. I'm a little bit like a broken record because I've done 2 other modules this month about skin, and I've said this in both modules. Literally, what is happening while you are in mom plays a role in what's going to happen in your skin later. And what I mean by this is that they have now found 172 the fluid. That's the lovely fluid that you float around in when you're in mom's belly. That are in the amniotic fluid can actually start in altering the ecosystem of your body, which then can set you up to actually have skin issues in general, acne included. In addition, is that acne can start also based off of where you were born. And what I mean by that is there is for getting exposed to bad bacteria just by being born in a hospital. A lot of people are born in hospitals. I'm not saying that every person born in a hospital has acne. What the bigger picture to take away is that if you were a C-section that didn't go through the vaginal tract, aka the vaginal tract is where all that good bacteria is, and then you got exposed to hospital, you've already started your life with an imbalance. And then on top of that, maybe that imbalance contributed to ear infections, and maybe you had sore throats, and maybe you had respiratory issues, and then you had antibiotics. So you further did the teeter-totter of bad bacteria, not enough good bacteria. On top of it, you then, maybe mom, you're the first, and moms are always, they're terrified with their first baby, and they got the hand sanitizer, they're wiping everything down with bleach, and they want to protect you, and they want to make sure that everything is super sanitary. And what they don't realize, again, no blame moms, no blame at all, but you don't realize is that the more you wipe out bacteria, you create resistant bugs that are now antibiotic resistant, but you also are going to have the baby or the child's body, their ecosystem is so off balance that now they're so much more susceptible to the bad bacteria. So we need to understand that getting dirty, allowing your kids to play outside and play in the dirt is not a bad thing. And it's not always about just like sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. Get rid of those or the antibacterial hand sanitizers. One of the biggest things with those hand sanitizers is they contain a chemical called triclosan. Triclosan is not only going to wipe out the good bacteria, but it also is a hormone disruptor. So in hormonal acne, and I'm going to talk more about that. Childhood illnesses. This is going to be the one that really blows your mind. The types of infections and the types of illnesses that you've had plays a role in where you might develop your acne. And then when it comes to the acne that truly is hormonal, food as a contributing factor. We have blood sugar as a contributing factor. We have stress levels as a contributing factor. How many of your kids are stressed right now? A comparison game. They're getting bullied online. Like, the stress is never ending for the younger generations right now. It's actually a scary time for them. And then we also have liver function. Best part is that when your acne doesn't get cleared up by antibiotics, what do you go on? You go on Accutane. What do they do when you're on Accutane? They monitor your liver enzymes because it destroys your liver. And a compromised liver is one of the contributing factors to hormonal acne. Best part. Anyway, dental work is another big one that nobody is thinking about. So we're going to start getting into these so that you guys kind of understand more about this. So I've given this away a little bit already. So number one, when the skin conditions can start early on, it's because of toxins in the amniotic fluid. Number two is if you were a C-section and born in a hospital, you already have not enough good bacteria and a boatload of bad bacteria, including strep and staph. Strep, throat, strep is in sinuses, in infections, and upper respiratory infections. Now it's even more associated with neurological issues and developmental issues known as a condition called PANDAS, which is a pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder caused by strep. So there is a lot of things going on with strep that nobody's talking about, but it's not just about your sore throat. There is a lot more to the puzzle. So outside of that, when we get into, some of the things that can be happening really, really young that also predisposes people to acne is eczema. And they call it baby eczema. Oh, baby eczema, it's so normal. Every baby has it. Oh yeah, they grow out of it. Eczema is not normal. It's never normal. It's a skin condition that is a result of an imbalance. So I had a 2-month-old that came with head to toe eczema and was crying a lot. So I bring this up primarily because what happens is this case specifically was a huge surprise to me, because I deal with a lot of patients that once I do their evaluation, what I realize is that a lot of their detox pathways, like their body's ability to get rid of the bad stuff is congested. It's like the concept of a vacuum. You literally have a vacuum with a filter and you keep using the vacuum. The filter gets more and more full. And then it gets to the point that the vacuum's at max, or the filter's at max capacity. So the vacuum's not really working properly anymore. So that principle actually applies to our body. It can apply to our liver. It can apply to our lymph nodes. You literally have lymph nodes everywhere. Lymph nodes are like what hurts when you get sick. So when someone comes in later in life, and this is 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and they have compromised lymph, I'm not surprised. They've been exposed to a variety of infections and viruses and toxins, and it makes sense that it can get congested. But the most surprising thing to me was when I had a 2-month-old that already had a compromised lymphatic system, and he was head to toe eczema, which all came from toxins that was in mom's body, in the amniotic fluid, C-section. In addition, mom had group B strep, which is a bacteria that he was also exposed to. So they gave antibiotics. And then on top of it, he was administered antibiotics quite a few more times for ear infections. This is literally all within 2 months of life. And this child had head to toe lymphatic issues already. So we have these things happening in the womb, at birth, into, that are all contributing contributing factors to screw up and congest lymph nodes, which then makes our skin more susceptible to acne and other issues later down the line. And if you're curious, some of the things that are actually found in the amniotic fluid is everything from cigarette smoke. I'm not even talking about women who smoked, but like secondhand smoke, exhaust, gasoline, pesticides, herbicides, from colognes, deodorants, like crazy stuff, guys. Like if you think that this stuff is not affecting you, if you think that you spray perfume on yourself every day and you rub tons of lotions and blemish balancing creams and you dye your hair, if you think that that's not getting into your system, it is. It's getting into your system, it's causing toxicity, and it's screwing up your detox pathways, and you're calling it aging. It's not aging. It's all the crap that's building up in your body that your immune system's like, I don't even know what to do with this anymore. Let alone if you work in an industry that you're a mechanic, you're a hairstylist, you develop film. There's a lot of other, aspects of people's professions that are also contributing. Okay, so we just talked about toxins that you literally could be exposed to from birth. Now we need to talk about toxins that you guys are all being exposed to now day to day, literally almost day to day in your life. So one of the things that all of us are using every day is toothpaste. Toothpaste, if you're using your more conventional brands, flip it over and look for an ingredient called triclosan, Triclo. Triclosan is a hormone disruptor. Triclosan is also in most hand sanitizers, and it is in the hand sanitizers that work in hospitals that have to literally sanitize in between every patient. So not only are you getting the hand sanitizer that is depleting your body of good bacteria or your skin of good bacteria, then in addition, you're also being exposed to a hormone disruptor, which is then screwing up your hormones, which is making your skin worse due to hormones. And then toothpaste. Think about where most people have their acne. Tons of people have acne on the jawline. And what do they get told? It's hormonal. Yeah, maybe it's hormonal. Maybe it's because you have a bunch of crap in your mouth. Maybe it's because you have a boatload of silver fillings in your mouth. Maybe it's because you have white fillings. They're equally as toxic. Maybe you've had a bunch of root canals. Maybe you've had your teeth pulled and had infections. Maybe your gums bleed. Things. Also, in addition, when you use toothpaste, you have triclosan, you have sodium phosphate, you have a variety of these other things that are toxic that are also getting absorbed directly into your gland, to your lymph nodes. So you have to think about the things that you use every day, because I know that we're all marketed these are safe and no big deal, but it's not the case. In addition, we're all putting aluminum on our armpits every day. Aluminum is a massive hormone disruptor. So when we talk about how these things play a role, it's a couple of things. So let me just try to break this down as easy as possible. So mercury we get exposed to by eating fish. We also get exposed through light bulbs, by the way. We also get exposed through silver fillings in our teeth. Aluminum, we get exposed through aluminum cans, aluminum foil, and deodorant, or I should say antiperspirant. So you get exposed to these chemicals, and what they do is they screw up your liver function. And if you screw up your liver function, you're actually going to have a really, really hard time getting rid of extra estrogen. So if you can't get rid of extra estrogen, not only are you going to be bloated and have fat in areas that you don't want fat deposits, like your abdomen and your hips, you're also going to have deposits in your pecs, which they call man boobs. So I live at the beach. Literally this summer, going to the beach, it's heartbreaking that I see these kids that are males that have figures almost like a female and have breasts. And these are kids that are probably self-conscious. Their parents are putting them on a diet, and they're missing the boat on the fact that it's toxicity, number one, and number two, it's all the that are in the food. We're literally eating meat that is produced through industrial farming, and they're pumping these animals full of hormones to make them fatter so they get more money for them. So we have a huge issue on our hands with what is hormones and what is screwing up our kids' hormones. So in addition to that is not only are we going to have this elevation in estrogen, we're also going to start having alterations in testosterone as well. So not only are we going to having issues getting lovely hair growth on their face, but then these women are more predisposed to also, and I think I just saw somebody write fibroids. So they're going to get fibrocystic breasts, and they also have more of a susceptibility to polycystic ovaries, so cysts on the ovaries, or even uterine fibroids. You might be thinking like, okay, like where the heck are some of these heavy metals coming from? And number one, yes, it's definitely silver fillings in the teeth, antiperspirants, and things like that. But one of the things that's really important to understand, these kids are being exposed, these kids are being born with heavy metals. And they're being born with heavy metals because now it's a standard that a pregnant woman gets the pertussis vaccine. The pertussis vaccine is not pertussis by itself anymore. It's actually DTaP. It's tetanus, pertussis, and diphtheria. So guys, I know that you're on Instagram, but on the webinar, this is literally the package insert. It's not like it's literally from the Merck manufacturer, but it specifically says formaldehyde, aluminum phosphate are two of the primary things that are in the tetanus or the DTaP vaccine. So if you think that you are metals, it's impossible. It's impossible because of things that are now being passed down generation to generation. It's impossible because of personal products, because of a million different things. So childhood illnesses. So when it comes to the most common childhood illnesses, we are talking about sinus infections, respiratory infections, ear infections, tonsil issues, adenoid issues, and then we might even have some dental issues from wisdom teeth getting pulled, and maybe they get infected, or they've had teeth pulled just to make room in the mouth, or these kids are getting canker sores or even cold sores, or they've had hand, foot, and mouth. So these are all childhood illnesses. And most of the time, what are we throwing at these? We're throwing antibiotics at them. And we have really normalized the use of antibiotics. And if anything, it's pretty normal to use antibiotics maybe every 2 weeks in a kid who's immune compromised. And we don't realize the ramifications of one here. First of all of you guys are getting exposed to antibiotics through your food. So not only are you getting exposed through your food, because all of the antibiotics, so every time you eat cheese and drink dairy and eat meat, you are getting exposed to antibiotics. I'm not a vegetarian, by the way, so I definitely am not insinuating that we need to be very conscious of quality, and we need to get out of this mindset of like, I'm just getting too busy, I don't have time for that. Oh, Whole Foods is expensive, because this is all part of the reason why we're sick, we feel like crap, and also why we have skin issues, acne included. Not only are we dealing with antibiotics through the food industry, then we get a cold, we get a sore throat, we get a sinus infection, and we're like, oh, antibiotics. And the doctors aren't giving you any recommendations to say, hey, don't do this too much. They're just like, yeah, dude, take another one. Oh, it didn't work, take a different one. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, let's put these two together. And we're constantly wiping out the good, wiping out the good, wiping out the good, and we are now a petri dish of bad bacteria. So we need to understand that these antibiotics are playing a significant imbalances. But the more we take them, we think that they're actually wiping out the bad bacteria. But what's crazy, because of the testing that I do and because of the technology that I have, that strep and staph and all of these skin-based bacterias, they're not dead. They're still there, but all your good bacteria is gone. So these bacteria have evolved. They have learned to be resistant against the antibiotics. So when someone comes to me with acne, when we start doing testing, we find that they have strep in the sinuses, and now that's in the skin. We find that they have strep or staph. I've even found Lyme disease in people's gums, and that is pushing into the skin. I have seen staph infections that are in the sinuses that is causing the acne. I've seen so many different components of these these bad bacteria that are contributing factors to the development of the acne. So that is obviously going to be an acne that can come and go, but will be further exacerbated based off of the hormonal changes, which we're going to talk a bit more about. But you have to start thinking about this. Think about, oh my gosh, do I always get my breakout where I had that tooth pulled? Do I always get breakouts around, my cheeks because I've had a ton of sinus infections? Do I always get on the sides of my neck, but I had a ton of ear infections? Do I always get breakouts on this area here, but I also had my tonsils removed because of tons of infections? So you need to start thinking anatomically of where have you had issues, where are your weak spots, and where is your acne? Well, I don't know what happened there. Oh no. My life with technology these days. That's fine. I'm going to just pull this up somewhere else. Bad luck, I guess. Okay, so continuing this conversation. So another aspect that you guys need to understand, I'm just going to actually stop this there. So now you can see about this whole conversation about infections affecting sinuses, tonsils, ears, is that you need to understand that this is actually going to play a role in the neurological system. Maybe not right away, but it is going to play a role later. So when you have your kid who's struggling in school, they're really can't get their grades up, they're not developing at the rate that you hoped, or they're having social anxiety, or they're having brain fog, memory loss, things like that. Or all of those things that were going on in the tonsils, all of the issues that were going on in the sinuses, has that contributed to the inability for the brain to actually drain? Because your brain is detoxing when you wake up in the morning, or your kids wake up in the morning and say, oh, I have a headache, and then it goes away, or oh, my throat feels sore, or oh, I feel stuffy in the morning. Those are all signs that the brain is detoxing. So the longer it starts with the brain fog, it starts with the attention hyperactivity, and then it spirals and needing more support, needing to be home. It really just is a cascade. We need to pay attention to these things because they're not normal. And why are we living in a world right now that so many kids are struggling academically, socially, and developmentally? So we really need to start asking better questions about this and start noticing these patterns in our kids. So the other big one is really understanding more about the food with the hormones. So I've already kind of given it away, but understanding that animal products that are not local, organic, grass-fed, if you are original stuff, you're going to your ShopRites, your Costco's, and you're not necessarily aware of, buying better quality meat, dairy, etc., you are being dosed with antibiotics and growth hormone every time you eat those foods. So first and foremost, with the whole industrial farming, the animals are being given to plump them up and make them bigger so they weigh more, so they cost more, they get more money for them. And then in addition is because these animals are in close quarters and they are not grazing, they're not eating what they're supposed to eat. Cows are supposed to eat grass. They eat corn and soy. Soy, what does soy do? Hormone disruptor, increases estrogen, makes them fatter, so they weigh more. Then they give them the growth hormone, and then they feed them corn, which is inflammatory, and then because they're sick, they give them antibiotics. So we really need to think about it in this way, instead of it just being like, it's cheaper, it's easier, I have a big family to feed. Because you can source it, you can go work with a local farmer, you can, no matter where, we're in Jersey, like nobody even thinks about farms here. They think we live in a concrete jungle, but we have access to farms. Like you have access if you start looking for it. But your kids, when they or your boys have the shape of a female and they have, they have breasts or man boobs, whatever you want to call it, don't put them on a diet, help them detox, and you need to feed them better food. It has nothing to do with them just being overweight. It has to do with the quality of what they're eating. Then in addition to this is now we're also dealing with sugar. We all know sugar's bad, but we don't realize how much sugar is in everything. So I am just as guilty as anybody else. Literally, I grew up, I always said, I was like, I'm not a sugar person. I don't have a sweet tooth. I always thought I ate healthy. I would go for sushi opposed to the pizza and whatever else. Did I have dessert occasionally? Yeah, but I wasn't dessert. I love my sugar, like eating cookies in bed. That was never my thing. But I would go to Starbucks when I was stressed out and I would get a mocha latte. And of course I did dairy before I knew better. And then I would, there's like 5 or 6 pumps of chocolate in it. So then I was like, okay, that's not good. And over to just doing regular lattes. And then eventually when they started to have milk alternatives, I did coconut milk lattes. And it was fascinating because when I finally was like, I'm going to start making these at home, and I bought my own coconut milk and everything else. And I was like, wow, this doesn't taste close to as good. And what I realized is that when I went to Starbucks, I asked them, I was like, can I see your coconut milk? And there was so much sugar in just the coconut milk. So you think that you're doing better and you're just like, oh, I'm just eating the latte, but there's still a boatload of sugar in it. So the problem that comes in with the sugar is this is 2 parts. Number 1 is the sugar bacteria, the bad bacteria. So the sugar's feeding the bad bacteria. So if the strep is part of the problem, or staph is part of the problem, or anything else from a bacterial standpoint, you're going to feed. But more importantly here is that the sugar starts to screw up your insulin levels. Once you start to have something called insulin resistant, which means that your body cannot utilize the glucose properly, the sugar properly, then that is actually going to start to completely compromise testosterone levels and estrogen levels. So what's going to happen is you're actually going to have a spike in the estrogen and a decline in the testosterone. So that's when the boys start having the female body figures. And then for females, it's kind of interesting because initially the estrogen spikes and the testosterone drops, and then eventually the testosterone starts to raise, and that's when the women become more susceptible to the fibroids and the polycystic ovaries, which they don't always get diagnosed with. They just get diagnosed with terrible periods, and they have to stay home from school because their periods are so brutally painful. Things that can be tied back to the body's inability to regulate sugar because there's so much sugar coming in, if they know it or they don't. So outside of that, when it also comes to the toxins in food, so the toxins come from the pesticides and the herbicides and all of these things that are sprayed on the foods. That is then going to screw up the liver. And then the more we screw up the liver, the more we have, especially with estrogen levels. So really, most of all of this starts with the spike in the estrogen. Spike in estrogen is one of the biggest contributing factors to hormonal skin. And the estrogen is becoming elevated because we're getting exposed to hormones through the food. Then on top of it, on the food, are screwing up the liver, which doesn't allow your liver to break down the extra estrogen. And then we have the sugar, which is further really altering these levels as well. So it's a perfect storm. So if you can't tell by now, this is not about take an antibiotic and call it a day. This isn't even about like just clean up the liver and call it a day. If this has been going on a long time, then there are multiple aspects that have to be balanced out to really get to. And you know, some of you might be thinking like, wow, sounds like really complex and a lot of work just to fix acne. But I'm going to tell you this, is that your kid might have acne right now, or you might have acne right now, but this becomes other issues later down the line. This becomes autoimmunity. This becomes celiac disease. This becomes neurological degeneration. This becomes all of these down the line. But all of it just brews and brews and brews, and it's like a snowball that's happening. So we need to be conscious of the really warning signs, which skin is definitely a manifestation of what's internally. And with this whole conversation, we talked obviously a lot about liver, but the other aspect of all the antibiotics and not having enough good bacteria and having too much bad bacteria, this is definitely something that is going to throw off gut health. And I know that everybody and how it affects everything. And yes, the gut is always something that has to be considered. But I'm not going to sit here and say that the gut is the only contributing factor to skin, because that is completely not correct. But fact of if you have bad bacteria in your gut, that's maybe causing you to be bloated. Maybe it's causing you to get bloated when you eat beans. Well, by the way, everybody thinks that's normal. Or maybe it's causing you to have heartburn or indigestion. All of those are signs of you having imbalances in your gut, by the way. So if you have this bad bacteria going on, then that is going to give off something called endotoxins, and those get into your lymph nodes, and then that pushes out into your skin and causes you to also have more issues with your skin as well. So I don't want you to think that you have all of these problems, and I don't want you to think that you have one of these problems. The most important thing is that every single one of you are extremely different, and maybe it's stemming from the liver. Maybe it's stemming from the bacteria from the sinus infections. Maybe it's stemming from sugar in your diet. It really is a matter of leveraging better testing to decipher which is the root for you, because two of you can have hormonal acne, but the origin is going to be. It's interesting because I had a patient who came to me for thyroid, and when we were talking about her thyroid, she was talking to me about her acne, and she was saying, you know, my acne is always just along my jawline, and I know it's hormonal, and I know it has to do with my thyroid. And we ended up working together, and we worked on her thyroid, and she don't understand. And when we started to talk more, I was like, have you had such a bad infection that my entire jawline turned green? So once we tested further, we realized in her jaw, and it all was the roots. So we used some different strategies to work on that, and that was actually what resolved her acne. So it wasn't truly hormonal. It definitely was worse around her cycle, but there was a bigger picture behind it. So another big thing when we talk about hormones that we have to consider is stress hormones. So hormones are something that I think we all know when we're stressed, but I know that at least living in New Jersey and being close to New York is that the nature of our personalities growing up here is that we're like, I can handle stress. I'm tough, I'm a survivor, like ride or die, push through. And we just kind of like attribute stress to just be a normal part of life. And we just do what we have to do, and we put our head down, and that's the way we are. And as much as I relate to it, because I was very much that person, and probably am to some capacity still these days, but I realized that no matter what I thought that I was capable of, my body internally still was pumping out a ton of cortisol and a ton of adrenaline, and completely compromising all of my, which was my feel-good hormones and my sex hormones. It doesn't matter if you're tough and resilient and you can handle stress, you are still creating a lot of issues with your sex hormones, like your estrogen and your testosterone and your progesterone, if you run on adrenaline and you don't sleep and you pump out tons of cortisol. So the way that you can know if your cortisol is off is if you can't get to bed, you have trouble falling asleep, and you then try to lay down, you toss and you turn, and your mind is racing, and then you get up in the morning and you're completely exhausted, that shows you that your cortisol and melatonin cycles are completely off. So if your cortisol and melatonin are going to definitely be in adrenal fatigue, which is going to completely compromise how your body is regulating and producing estrogen and testosterone. So this is also another part of the puzzle when it comes to acne, is that your stress levels, you're burning the candle at both ends, I'm commuting are going to contribute to your hormones being out of whack and also contribute to your skin being out of whack. So we need to stop thinking that going to become a time that you are going to burn out. And I know it because that happened to me. I powered through for literally like 15 years. And then my body was like, no, you're done. And it shut me down hard. And it was actually scary how hard it shut me down, because I was barely able to function. And fortunately, I do what I do, and I was able to get myself back, but being able to create some type of balance while still maintaining your life. The other thing too is when it comes to stress hormones, there's going to be a big component here that plays a role from technology. So talk about cortisol and melatonin. So like, let me just give you this baseline so you actually know what the heck I'm talking about. So when your cortisol is really high, which is normal, your cortisol gets you up. It's like, get up, energize, get to work, like do your thing. So cortisol is really high in the morning, and then it starts to taper as you go through the day. And then as you get into the evening hours, your melatonin starts to go up. So they work inversely. So now your melatonin's going up because it's starting to get you tired to go to bed at a normal time, allow you to go into rest, relaxation, and detox, because that's what happens when you sleep. And then all your melatonin tapers off, and then your cortisol goes back up. One of the reasons why people can't sleep and also run on adrenaline and run on stress hormones and have bad skin and all of the rest is because we completely screw up these cycles when we're constantly being stimulated by blue light. Blue light comes from our technology, and I actually should be talking. I literally have blue light blocking glasses that I should be putting on right now. So, but it's going to be coming from our cell phones. It comes from our Kindles. It comes from our tablets. It comes from our computers. It comes from all of those things. So you guys might be trying to like get in a better routine at night, and you're like, I'm going to read, but you're reading on a Kindle or you're reading on a tablet. We got to go old school, guys. Get back on, get a book out, literally get a book. And reading on a device are completely different activations to your brain. So it's very, very important for you to understand these things. If you are going to read on a tablet, get a pair of these guys. I wish I was like endorsed by them, but MVMT. Glasses, they're fantastic for helping to block out the blue light. They have really goofy looking versions of this. It's not MVMT, it's a different company. But you can get them on Amazon. They're yellow. The lenses are yellow. Those are actually known to produce more melatonin. So those are really, really fantastic for those of you that really, really struggle with sleep. Those glasses in the evening hours. Your family might think you're a weirdo, but they work. But we really need to be shutting our devices down at a certain point in the night, because that is going to definitely play a role in your sleep cycles. It's going to play a role in your cortisol, and it's going to play a role in your hormones, which is then going to play a role in your hormonal acne. That's my spiel. So if you guys really haven't realized at this point, it's, you don't know what you don't know. Like nobody is thinking about all of these different factors when they're thinking about their skin. They're thinking like, do I need to go on birth control if you're a female? They're thinking, oh, do I need to go on antibiotic? And then, oh crap, the antibiotic probably need the big guys, the big guns, I need Accutane. And like I said before, is that they're going to completely screw up the overall bacteria in your body, which doesn't just cause skin problems, it's going to cause a boatload of other issues. Accutane with liver enzymes, because it destroys your liver. So the more you destroy your liver, the more trouble you have with metabolizing. So you literally further the issue later down the line. And if you go on Accutane, you might see, but then it's right back to where you were. And really the same thing with the antibiotics. If the antibiotics didn't work after a month, they're not going to work. So it's like these kids, they're years, like just try something different. And also that I think is really important is stop using so much crap on your face. Stop using so many cleansers and so many face masks. Like, I can't even speak right now because I have a pimple, which unfortunately wasn't perfect for this webinar. But people will say like, wow, your skin is like pretty balanced overall. And I'm like, I literally do nothing. I use Dr. Bronner's Castile soap. It is the more simple you go, the better. If you need to stop like clearing all that bacteria off of your face, because the more you wipe out the good, you're going to have the bad come in, which is going to create issues. So it's really just a matter of less is more. Talking about skin, less is more. And if you are going to use stuff, just try to use non-toxic stuff. It's just so, so, so important. Just an FYI, my Instagrammers, it's going to cut me off in about 6 minutes. So again, if you guys want this full webinar, you definitely need to go over to the link in the bio, register, and you'll get the replay. Just an FYI. Okay, so my biggest thing for you guys to take away is that we need to stop blaming this on bad genes and blaming it on bad luck, because that's not how it works and for why these things develop. And there is always a solution. I think that's the most important thing, is that we get away from this idea that the healthcare is supposed to be about answers, and it's supposed to be in this day, according to the parameters with the insurance, your doctor is not allowed more than 15 minutes with you. There are many doctors that are not even spending that much time. So they're not asking you better questions. They're definitely not asking you about your nutrition. They're not asking you, they're asking you if you had strep or staph or dental work. They're not asking you any of those questions. They don't have time. They don't know a contributing factor, but they have enough time to write you a script. So it's really a matter of demanding more out of your healthcare, and the more that we all demand more out of our healthcare, the shift. We will see the system shift, that we can have integrative practices, really work with insurance companies to have the coverage. You know, it's definitely an aspect that we wouldn't be able to do what we do if are able to get blood work covered and be able to use your insurance for as much as possible, out of network reimbursement. But if we were to strictly follow the insurance guidelines, we would really not be able to do what we do. So a question of people are like, I want to do this, I want to get this testing done, and I want to like be able to resolve my hormonal acne. How much does it cost? How does it work? Etc. So when it comes to our onboarding process, of how we actually work with our patients is that we actually do a lot of different upfront testing, but a lot of it we do in-house. We have some really, really awesome, unique technologies. So literally on your actually already have an idea of where your issues are coming from. We have the ability to look at everything down to the DNA of your body, and also if your body is carrying foreign DNA. So foreign DNA could be DNA of strep or staph that's in your skin. So it's really, you're going to get so much information about your body, about where the heck this is coming from in a very short amount of time. I have a comment here. Because they all make money off of it. Yeah, it's horrible. I know. I totally get it when it comes to healthcare is, some of you are here because you've been beaten down by the system and you've been on a merry-go-round of no answers and really just feeling lost and unsupported. And I trust me, I get it. My goal of doing these webinars is to get people here before they have to go through that. At least something that we really aspire to do, because it's so heartbreaking hearing the stories that I hear of people that have just, if anything, they've gotten extremely worse over the time period of these different specialists, and nobody's been able to necessarily pinpoint what the problem is. So we really are trying to do things differently. Don't claim to be, the sole expert. I actually work with a team, because when you guys come through our coach, you get a doctor, and you also have a whole array of other team members that you'll be working with throughout the duration. But overall, I know that for me, I'm going to work in my zone of genius. Our health coach works in her zone of genius. And then we also have our nutritionist, which is going to work in her zone of genius. That is, when we talk about the dietary, not that every single person that walks through our door is going to get the same hormonal acne. That's not how our practice works at all. We leverage such customized testing that we do not guess about anything. Everything is tested. So the supplements that you need, your face wash to see if it's actually good or bad for you. We test supplements, we test detox therapies, we test lymphatic therapies, we test figure out exactly what your body needs to start the recovery process. So literally it doesn't really get any more specific than what we do. And Grace, our nutritionist, is amazing because she's always going to take your lifestyle into consideration when she is mapping out your diet. If you're the person that is commuting into New York City every day and you need foods that are more convenient and you need to support that lifestyle, she's going to work with that, which is really a great thing, because it's not that we expect everyone to now, spend 6 hours a day cooking at home and meal prepping. We're very busy, as entrepreneurs and business owners, we've learned how to make it work. So we really teach you a lot of that as well. So some of the other big things that I want you guys to kind of take away from all of this is that when we get into this whole idea of conventional medicine, functional medicine, integrative medicine, we often don't even know what the heck the difference is. And there's a lot of different, a lot of different definitions or interpretations of what all that means. So number one is, obviously conventional testing is that antibiotic Accutane approach. Functional medicine, which is doing better testing, really trying to decipher where the problems are. Kind of tools are really relying on diet. And so I have personally found that I have hit roadblocks in my own personal care, and I've also hit roadblocks with my patients' care when I only rely on diet and supplements. And for those of you that have been listening the whole time, one of the things that I said is that when you cut things out of your diet, it's kind of like you're taming the fire, but you're not putting the fire out. So my goal is always to make sure that we can put the fire out by understanding the root cause and leveraging things that are fix the root problem. And then from there, you're balance in your life. and not be like, oh, I have to be on an elimination diet. I have to take 45 supplements for the rest of my life. It's all about balance, because that's not balance. It's about knowing things that you need to do to maintain your health, but it's also about being able to fix it from the root cause, because that's what healthcare should be. That's really what it should be. So lucky for you guys, I am doing something that I haven't done before, and let me actually post it, because I literally always forget to do this. So when it comes to our whole process of working with, one of the things that we used to do, which is very conventional approach to functional medicine, is you'd come in, you'd pay X amount of dollars for your consultation, and then I would get, and it would be blood work and stool analysis and nasal swabs and urine testing and hormone testing and all these things. And you would have to pay for all of those kits, and those kits are a couple of $1,000s. So really didn't feel good about that approach. I didn't feel good because I felt like it was a surprise, number one. I also felt that it wasn't even giving me that good of information for the level of investment that you made. So we have completely changed our approach over the past 2 years, and we have studied, learned, evolved, really demoed and tested tons of different modalities and technologies to really come up with a way to figure out exactly what's going on with the patient in order to get them on the right track in the shortest amount of time. So we have an onboarding process. Onboarding, what I mean by that is that when you do your onboarding, it covers everything. It covers meeting with the doctor, meeting with the nutritionist. It also covers all of your testing, blood work, DNA testing, meridian testing, allergy testing, heavy metal testing, mineral testing, vitamin testing. What am I missing? Autoimmune testing. Literally, we do. So it covers all of those things, and then it also covers reviewing the findings with the physician, and then from there, being able to get all of your recommendations that were tested against your body. So normally our onboarding process for working with the doctor, I should tell you this because there is 2 different programs. So working with me or Dr. Nick, that whole onboarding process with all of your testing and all of your consultations is $1,997. Yes, $1,997. Some of you might be like, oh my gosh, that's insane. I promise you, you'll go to another practice and you will spend way more on a bunch of lab kits that you have to ship out and pay each. So I promise you, it is the best money you've ever spent. But if you are pretty simple, maybe you're just like, listen, I got a little acne. I don't think I have all these crazy things going on, and I really just want to have more of an alternative solution. We have something called the integrative assessment. So this is our program, but it's ran by our health coach and our nutritionist. So you are not working directly with Dr. Nick or myself, but you are going to be managed through our practice using our approaches and using all of our customized testing. So that is a fantastic approach that you can also take advantage of. That is $997 for the onboarding. So it is a pretty significant difference. But if you guys want to take advantage onboarding, you get $200 off link. You're not going to get the $200 off if you don't use this link because it's special coded in the back end. So if you want to take advantage, we always want to make sure that you are a fit for us. This is not a purchase, by the way. This is just for you to book a strategy call to talk to our client services team. And if you use this link to set up your call to learn more about the onboarding and also for us to learn more about you, and we find that it is a good fit, then you'll be able to take it off. So again, you will get $200 off if you don't use this link. So you use. With that being said, again, if you go to our website, you can find more about all of this good stuff. You can actually see the breakdown of these technologies that I'm talking about and see how cool they are. Freaking awesome. And I love what I do because it is so amazing to be able to, within minutes, be like, your problems. So I find that I act a bit like a detective in my day-to-day. But it's truly our passion here. And literally, it's not just about my passion. It's about every single person that works here is truly passionate about helping people. And we have so many tools. You will never not know what's going on. We will never not troubleshoot to get you past those bumps in the road. It's really, really just an amazing approach. And we really hope that you can take advantage of it. But regardless, I hope this was awesome for you and it blew your mind and you took away so many amazing little nuggets, because to give you guys the information he's talking about, because nobody is connecting the dots like this. So it's really, really huge for you to be able to walk away just having peace of mind, and then eventually, you know, potentially using our services to be able to deal with it when the time is right. But these webinars are definitely my passion. And this is such an educational experience for all of you guys. I just really hope that at some point in time, you'll be able to have your own breakthrough experience. And that is really comes from finally knowing what's going on in your body, and also being able to be preventative in a lot of the things that we're fearing. A lot of us are sitting around fearing cancer, and we're fearing Alzheimer's, and we're fearing Parkinson's, and we're fearing the conditions that we've watched our loved ones deal with. And, you know, you don't know what you don't know until you do. And you know that there is an option out there that can help you to get clarity on your body, and also help you really negate the possibility of those chronic illnesses. So I really hope that you got tons of value out of this, and I hope that we do see you in the future. But as we continue for the rest of the year, I've committed to a year of webinars, and I can't believe it. But we are going to be doing another module about skin next week. I wish I could remember what it is to tell you guys. But as we go into November, we're actually going to be talking a lot about mental illness. And this is actually in relation to traumatic brain injuries, and also in relation to the influence of social media and some of the things that are really affecting our kids nowadays. So I'm very, very excited about that module, because we talked about neurological issues previous in the year, but it was more in relation to infections. And now we're really starting to dig into more of these other layers that are contributing. And then in December, we have Grace, our nutritionist, and Dr. Nick that are actually going to be talking all about how to handle your family, and also how to not your diet during the holidays. One's coming to you, and you can actually register for these webinars ahead of time on our website. So you do have access to those links on our website. Okay, I'm going to take a peek in here just to see if there was any questions. I don't see that there were any questions, so I guess I did my job well. But again, I really appreciate you guys being here, and I hope you take advantage of the strategy call, and I will see you next week.